Welcome to All Things Possible TV. We're excited to have you with us today. In fact, I'm thrilled to have my son, Blake Barney, be our guest on this episode of Against All Odds, You Are Enough. It is Blake's turn to get raw and real in All Things Possible TV again.
Yep.
And it's been my turn the last few weeks, but this week, we want to reinforce that you are enough, and that if you can put those top three action steps that we taught last week in action in your life will be different. And I'm thrilled to have Blake here because number one, that means he flies home and sees Mom.
I come to visit a lot.
But also because he really has put these 3 steps into place in his life, and it's made a phenomenal difference.
Yeah, life has been a roller coaster at times, and sometimes need a little bit of reinforcement here and there to achieve what I wanted to achieve. And these 3 steps have definitely played a contributing part to getting me to where I'm at today.
So we're excited to have you join us. Before we really get raw and real and dig deep and expose Blake,
A little much.
I want to invite you to our website right here on the screen, and it's www.allthingspossible.biz, and I want to give you our gift of the 7 traits. We teach 7 traits at All Things Possible, and it's 7 traits that will ultimately change your life, and if you can implement them, you can have immediate results. It really does change where you are at, helps get you out of that being inward focused and being outward focused and actually making changes in your life. So you can click right here on the link, and it will take you, it will pause the video and take you to the website, and you can come back and watch, or you can click the link in the description below so that you can get your free gift.
Check it out.
So I love to be able to give that to you. So check that out on the website, and let's jump in and expose Blake.
Get into the nitty-gritty of this.
This is really fun because the one thing that I want to really embrace right here is that it wasn't just a piece of cake. There was a time in Blake's life where he didn't feel like he was enough. There's a time in my life where I wasn't enough.
Yep.
And there was a big roller coaster of events that I really questioned how good of a mother I was, and I know for Blake, you questioned your own identity and your worth, and one of the reasons why I have chosen this episode and asked Blake to actually come on and talk about this is because he's had such phenomenal success. Why don't you tell us a little bit of your story, a little bit of where you were at, and kind of what's gone on for you?
Yeah, life was good as a kid. You know, I was raised in a beautiful family. Look at this.
I paid him to say that.
Was raised in a really, really good family and had a lot of opportunities made available to me through it. But even with that, life still throws you curveballs, and it still throws things in your path that were unexpected, unfamiliar, or even those around you don't know what to do with those curveballs. As I grew up, through my preteen years, I watched my uncle commit suicide and a close family member pass away from cancer, and watched my mom go through the depression and the struggle of that, of balancing getting through the depression, then battling with it, getting through it and back to battling, and living these steps for herself.
Well, and even at that point, there was a whole summer that after the suicide death of my brother and the death of a dear close, was basically my sister, but she was my cousin, where I would literally open my door and say, "Did you feed her?"
Yep.
Blake was the best one to feed her. He liked to be Mom.
I was the mother.
But Chantal was 5 years younger, and there was a time where I didn't want to be out of my room.
Yeah. So I watched that struggle, and it wasn't many years after that I started to have some of my own struggles. Started to go through identity crisis, figuring out who I was, and part of that's just the standard teenage years. And part of it is unique to everybody's experience. Through my teenage years, I lived a lot of a double life. I went back and forth in my religious beliefs and my spirituality to a foundation of a higher power. By the time I was 18 years old, I had come to terms with some aspects of my life, and I did come out as a gay individual to my family and friends, and was started into my college career. But all through that path of the identity crisis, figuring myself out for who I was, my religious beliefs, my spirituality, my relationship with my family, it really shook my foundation. It shook the foundation of everything that I knew. It changed what the future looked like for me. And I was starting over, trying to identify who I was, what I wanted, and what my life looked like. Because things changed. I no longer had a mission or a wife or biological children or certain career aspirations I no longer thought were available. So it really shook that foundation.
It shook the foundation for all of us.
Yeah.
It really changed the parameters of kind of where we were at.
Yeah.
We did have a religious home. These were some things that were very different for belief systems and very cut and dried. And it wasn't a walk in the park picnic of like,
no.
Oh, this is how it is, and all happy, let's have a party. It was a note
uphill.
on the bed and run away. It was some really tough things.
Yeah, an uphill battle for everyone. And some of my choices as I started into my college career, I struggled a lot with the depression aspect of it. The will to live and destructive behaviors and habits. I luckily didn't make any too catastrophic of choices, but I definitely made some choices that made things more difficult, that perpetuated my complex and lost situation. And I struggled at times to find paths and find choices that moved me forward, that got me out of the rut that I was in, that got me moving to being the man that I wanted to become. And so that's what these 3 steps are all about, is everybody gets in a rut at some point in life. It happens. It's part of being human. It's part of living life.
Exactly.
It's part of learning. But by living these 3 steps, we can identify more about ourselves, more about how do I get myself out of this rut, how do I move forward, and how do I get on a path and headed in a perpetual direction that will get me to my goals, get me to the aspirations that I've set for myself.
Well, and it gets us to a point where we stop that comparison, stop that this is what everyone else expects of me, and stop trying to live up to everyone else's expectations, and we start to believe in ourselves and to trust deep down within ourselves that we are a good person. Nothing ever changed that Blake wasn't a good person. In our family, there wasn't ever that consideration. We started immediately with unconditional love. There was a big yo-yo and a big teeter-totter of how do we handle this? How do we accept this? How do we embrace it and move forward? And you're coming from a family that is extremely close. Yeah. Blake gets 5 or 6 weeks vacation, poor kid, a year, and he spends most of that with us.
Yeah, I do.
And that's not usually a single 25-year-old that does that. They usually have a little bit more selfishness and want to take off and do their own thing, and he does spend a ton of time with us. We have an extremely close family, and we always have, even when things got rocky, and that it wasn't what we planned. When the situation changed, we got to jump on board and really embrace where that went. And I just want to tout a horn for a minute. And I know Blake really doesn't want me to do this, but we're talking about someone who, during their teenage years, is having this identity crisis, really could be quite suicidal, very frustrated, and didn't want to live, didn't want to be different, and was very scared of how that was going to be. Yeah. And yet he trusted the processes that we had in our home. He was self-employed in high school. He graduated high school with an associate's degree in college. And before the age of 21, before his 21st birthday, he had his master's degree. That was phenomenal. He had a six-figure education that you had, one $20,000 loan. He had scholarships, he had honors. He was really putting his main emphasis in on his education. What it really was he wanted his worth to be there. Yeah. And no matter how much college he got and how much education and how much he was trying to be better than all these other people so that he would be accepted, that really wasn't the ticket.
Right. There was things that I challenged with but it didn't stop me from progressing forward. You know, there was parts of me, of my identity, that were hard for me, but regardless of where the identity was going to fall and come out at the end of the day, I knew my education and my career were going to be significant factors in my life. So one of the steps, believing in myself and moving that forward, and consistently stuck with it. And it was hard, but it's paid off and it served me well.
Very hard. In fact, he was even, at 21 years old, was given a very substantial amount of money to leave the state and open a training department for the company. Yep. As this young kid. And they were like, can you act older? Can you look older? You know, a 21-year-old coming in and telling you how to do your job isn't impressive for a lot of older people that are employed. But he was still moving forward. And that came from that step one, that believe in yourself. He trusted that he could do it and that he was worth it. And it was worth having that education, that focus, and being driven, even when it was hard, to take that next step, because it would change his future.
Yeah, fight through the steps. I mean, every day is a choice. Every day you walk out the door, how you work, how you go to school, how you interact with your family, all of it's a choice. And a lot of this is starting with you. You have to be, at some point, good with yourself before you can be good with the other areas. Right,
and that comes with stopping those voices. Don't listen to what's going on in your head. Get out of your thoughts. Actually come from your heart and your feelings, and be like, I am graduating ahead of schedule. I am working a really good job. There were times when he didn't believe in himself, where there were other ways to escape.
Yep.
And there's a lot of them. Not that he entertained all of these, but there's alcohol. There's just couch potato and not doing anything. There's numbing yourself with drugs.
Right.
There's the wrong crowd and spending time running away from what's really going on, rather than embracing the situation and going, this is really who I am. This is what life's about for me, and this is what I'm going to do next.
Yeah. And all of this, I mean, it ties into that first of the 3 steps. Believe in yourself. Who are you? Who do you want to be? What's the character? What's the integrity level? What's the honorability that you are, that you want to be? And believe in that. You may not have a clear-cut, asphalt-paved path on how you're going to get there, but believe in it. You have to believe.
We had a dirt road for a long time. It worked, right?
Yeah, with lots of potholes.
And washboarded it, like shake everywhere.
Exactly. So the path isn't always smooth, and sometimes, to be honest, the path won't be there. And you're just going to have to get out your mucking boots and start figuring it out.
Sometimes you have to go for a hike.
Yeah, but believe in yourself. It's getting rid of those negative voices, and I had them a lot. I mean, there was constant voices in my head, and sometimes I joke about having 4 different personalities, because it feels like there's a whole choir up there going on.
He really does. Different personalities. We're going to bring that out to him later.
Next week.
We don't want to burst his bubble too bad yet. But that takes us into the second step of accepting yourself. When we can show unconditional love, as a family, when you find someone struggling with their identity, struggling with confidence, struggling with loving themselves, with moving forward, unconditional love is one of the biggest things. But the second one is finding that proof. For Blake, that proof came into education, having a good job, being self-sufficient, being ahead of the game. Blake is 25 years old. Again, he won't want me to say this, but at 22, he bought his first home. And it's a way nice home with a pool. I go to Phoenix, and I have a great time at Blake's house. And total, really nice home, has this great job. And again, he doesn't want me to say this, but he's 25. And the whole thing was that he decided that he could believe in himself and then accept himself where he was. There's always room for improvement for everyone. Every single person. I don't care who you are not perfect. And there's room for improvement. But if you will accept where you are and start seeing your good qualities, when you focused on, I have my education, I am a good trainer, I am good at this, or I am good at that, and not be cocky and sassy and all full of yourself, but own what you have as your qualities, your talents, your abilities. Get out of your judgment and comparison.
And that was, the judgment and the comparison was the hardest thing for me. The accepting myself, if it was talking about my education, that was easy to accept. I busted my hindquarters for that thing. And I wanted to accept that. What was difficult for me to accept was some of the the diversions on the path to life that I was taking and some of the choices I had made, or accepting myself for some just life events that happened, things that may not have been a choice in my life, things that may have just been part of the path I walked, and accepting that. And the biggest lesson that I learned in that about the judgment and the comparison was that I was constantly judging myself and the influence I may have had in those occurrences, and I was comparing myself to an idealistic person. An idealistic
He was
path.
and comparing himself to his two big brothers.
And they're idealistic. But
It was hard being the third boy. 3 boys in a row, and you're the one that chooses out of what we had taught.
Yeah.
The path we were choosing. And that was very difficult. So there was this, I'm going to go above and beyond so that I'm still loved and I'm still accepted.
Yeah.
Even though the whole time you were loved and accepted, he had to believe it. He had to accept it.
And accepting it, the thing that gave me peace, that empowered me to be able to accept it, was focusing more on the lessons I learned from those choices. That in the moment of the choice, yeah, I'm not proud of some of the choices that I've made in my past.
Me either.
But the lessons I learned from them...
But I still love him.
The lessons that I learned from those choices, I am so proud of them. I learned something powerful, and gosh darn it, sometimes it didn't happen until the 5th time I made the choice, but I learned it.
Let's hope
that's
you don't have to go through 5 times of all of those choices.
I know, exactly. Can't afford it. But I had to accept it. And I found peace in accepting the life lesson, because accepting the lesson that I learned from those experiences and the experience as a whole is what gave me a stronger foundation, is what helped those positive or negative aspects of life create a more solid foundation to believe in myself more, accept myself more, and move into our next step.
Well, and even before we go there, part of accepting yourself is letting go of the past.
Yeah.
Letting go of those mistakes, letting go of it, forgiving yourself, and being like, you know what, I did learn from that.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing for me. Had I not gone through a deep depression and made Blake feed Chantel, and really I was still a mom, but I really was checked out. I was in a deep, deep depression. I refused to take medication because the medication change was part of my brother's suicide. And I really was in a bad place. But had I not gone there, I wouldn't know how to get out.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have brought you up with those kinds of steps,
right,
knowing that it was okay to be different. It was okay to have different belief system and be challenged by, I'm the only one that's not doing this. He called himself the black sheep. Apparently he dressed appropriately today. But in his letter to us is, I can't do this, I'm the black sheep. And that hurts so badly because I didn't see him as that. He saw himself as that.
Yeah.
And when he can let that go and just accept where he is, he's a great person. He does so much good out there, and I won't brag about that stuff because I will get in trouble for that.
Yes, you will.
But he does a lot of things in secret that changes people's lives in a huge way, because we've done that his whole life. He still does that. He still knows that give back. He still knows to, accept and help others, and to look outside of himself.
Yep.
But let's go into the third step, that give yourself permission.
Yeah.
For a long time, you did not give yourself permission to be you.
Yeah, I lived a double life for, 6 years? But
I don't know. I was in confusion.
Yeah, she only knew one of them. But I lived a double life for a long time, and even after I stopped living a double life, I still struggled back and forth with a lot of things. And it withheld so much in my life, and the most primary thing was happiness and peace within myself. That I was one person with one set of standards and integrity and purpose on the outside, but in my double life, I was, a lot of those characteristics carried over, but there was critical aspects of that second life that weren't the same, that was a different person. And it perpetuated that depression and that struggle and that will to live and the destructive behaviors and habits that really hurt me in a lot of ways and took me years to overcome. But having been through that struggle, and I can now look back and realize the time that I finally flipped the light switch and I gave myself permission. It was probably the biggest darn light switch I've ever had to flip. And it was really...
At 220, huh?
Yeah. This was a giant circuit board. It was hard. And believing in yourself, accepting yourself, and then giving yourself permission, in my experience, giving myself permission was the hardest one. And when you just read that list, it's the easiest one. Oh yeah, sure, I can go to the grocery store today, I gave myself permission. It's not, it's bigger than that, it's life.
When we're talking about validating ourselves and finding our talents, sometimes we start to see, and we were raised to not boast. As soon as you're 5 years old and you're like, I'm the best at this, blah, 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 blah. Moms are going, knock it off, that's not nice, right? And so we do shun that and we do stop that behavior. But when we can celebrate our abilities and our talents and what we're about, and we can give ourselves permission to get out of that box and do it a little bit different. You know, one of the biggest things for me, and right now I still struggle at times, is to actually be vulnerable and be out in front of all of you. I was a model for a while, and it's been really tough to be at my heaviest weight and my most unhealthy. Even though I'm doing something about it, I still have to give myself permission and say, it's okay, because they can see that I can relate to them. And it took a long time for me to get to that point. Yeah.
But there's so much that, I mean, give yourself permission. For me, it was related to my sexuality, and for Mom, it was related to appearance and being on stage. And for someone else, it may be you've been in the same job for 15 years. And you believe in yourself, and you accept yourself to be good at that job, but is that job making you happy? Is it getting you where you want to be? And are you just not giving yourself permission to look somewhere else because you're complacent or comfortable? Are you living a good, comfortable life, but you're just complacent? You're not challenging yourself, and you're not reaching that next level on the ladder or that next level of goals that you want to, you believe you could, but you're just not giving yourself permission to take the risk or invest the energy and the emotion to achieve it. It's the hardest one of the three.
It can be really
Certainly
hard.
Can be.
And have you just given up on the goals?
Yeah.
Have you said, I'll never be thin, or I'll never be healthy, or I'll never have a six-figure income, or I'll never be that leader, I'll never be the manager of the company, or I'll never get to that vice president level, or I'll never own my own company? Are you taking away from your life what could be?
Yeah.
Out of lack and fear? And are you looking to have everyone else validate you? Are you looking around and have to have permission from everybody else? There was a big, big step. And there's even times in my business that I do want that, go to my business coach, go to, different people and be like, okay, is this really the next step? Like, this is a big investment. I have a retreat coming up, and we have a lodge that's thousands of dollars. And it's like, I'm nervous about, can I fill the room? Can I do the next level? It's giving yourself permission to absolutely live in your brilliance and be who you're meant to be. Share the real you. Not the one that's in your head, the one that's in your heart. The one that you come from a real space, and you come from feeling, and you come from a positive energy, and you get to make changes in the world. You get to influence other people. Right. And you get to really be that standard. Yeah. I know that Blake has been an influence for many, many people, and has been that strength and that ability to be himself and to honor that and to step out there, even though sometimes it's scary.
It's scary because you have to believe in yourself and give yourself permission at the same time, because you have to believe in who you want to be and give yourself permission. Believe in the true character of your heart, and more than just the idealistic image of the person you thought you wanted to be. Believe in who's inside, to find that person, and then give yourself permission to be that person. Don't believe there's a person in here, but only give yourself permission to be this idealistic image. Give yourself permission to be that true character, that true person on the inside.
Yeah, be real, be vulnerable, be real, and love you. Yeah. That's the biggest thing, is to love yourself. The more you love you, the more you can love everyone else around you, and the more authentic and real you'll be.
Yeah, and the one thing I would add as we go through these 3 steps: believe in yourself, accept yourself, give yourself permission. It's not exactly a chronological step where you do 1, 2, 3, I'm done, I'm graduated.
And it's a progress. You still have to go back. There's days that I can make phone calls and I don't have the success that I want to have, and I start to doubt myself. Or maybe it's a job interview. Yeah. Sometimes we have job interviews and we move up the ladder. Not announcing anything, but sometimes we take on that that next step. And maybe we don't make the cut. Maybe we don't get picked for what that position is. Even if we're qualified and it's not right. Maybe there's something better coming. Maybe there's something different that's going to be coming in your life. You never know. Maybe it's a bad relationship. Maybe it's a situation where it is better to be apart, even though it's hard. You went through a breakup that was really tough. You cared deeply for this person, and that can be really hard. Those times we start to doubt ourselves. We start to say, okay, do I believe in myself? Am I lovable? Does anybody else want me? You know, are you accepting yourself? And are you giving yourself permission to be like, okay, so I get to put myself back out there?
So every day you choose it. They don't just happen 1, 2, 3. It could be 2, 3, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 3. Like, you could be all over the place on where this is.
That's
it's
like
a continual process.
1, 1, 1, 1.
I really had to hound that one. But believe in yourself. Accept yourself. Give yourself permission. And bounce around between all three every day. It's a lifestyle. It is a choice. Every day, how you live these principles is your choice.
And forgive yourself.
Absolutely.
Let it go. Be done with it. And find what you learned from the situation. When you can look at it and learn from it, it's over, it's past, it's behind you. Let it go. You are not as critical on other people as you are on yourself. And if you will look at what you forgive of others and give yourself that same opportunity to let it go, move forward. I again want to invite you to go to the website www.allthingspossible.biz, and you may get the 7 traits. That's our gift to you. And also, if you are interested in doing a strategy session with myself, with Kris, go to that contact us button and put your email in there, and just a quick, I would like to receive a strategy session. I do 30-minute strategy sessions, and we can talk about what steps you're at in this. Are you in number 1, 2, or 3? Believe in yourself, accept yourself, or give yourself permission. I would love to be able to help you to move forward, to accept yourself more, to have more abundance, more freedom in your life. So go to the website and opt into the All Things Possible community. Get our newsletter, get the next episode so that you don't miss it. It's your opportunity to really take the step, take the challenge, and move forward. Blake, I love having you home with me, but I also love having you be on our show. I learned so much from my children, and definitely Blake's been one to teach me. He taught me some hard things as well as some good things. I've learned from all of my children, and I treasure that they are good, upstanding citizens as well as phenomenal people. And it's an honor to have you on the show and to have you share and be vulnerable to, right now we have over 7,000 downloads every 4 weeks. So it's put it out there for a lot of people. And thank you for being on here, being vulnerable, and being willing to say, going through that tough stuff.
Yeah, thank you. And watch it again. Catch the important parts. Believe in yourself. Accept yourself. Give yourself permission.
Yeah, and don't forget to come back and join us next time on All Things Possible TV. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.